Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by sharing something that I've learned in my life, something that changed the way I looked at pain, betrayal, and hurt. You see, there was a time when I thought revenge was the answer. I thought that getting back at the people who hurt me, the ones who broke me down, would give me peace. But over time, I realized something that shifted my entire perspective. The best revenge is not about hurting others in return. No. The best revenge is healing. Let me explain. When someone causes you pain, they leave an imprint. It may feel like a scar, or perhaps like a weight you're forced to carry. But here's the thing, they don't get to control how long that pain stays. You do. The moment you choose to heal, the moment you decide that you will not let their actions define your future, you take back control. And that, my friends, is the most powerful kind of revenge. In a world that often encourages us to pay back what we've received, I want to remind you that there's strength in choosing a different path. There's power in choosing peace over bitterness, growth over grudges, and kindness over cruelty. You don't have to become like the ones who hurt you. You don't have to repeat the cycle of pain. I understand. Trust me, it's not easy. When people hurt us, when they betray our trust or take away our peace, it's natural to want to lash out. But I learned that revenge doesn't free you. It doesn't heal you. It only keeps you in the cycle of pain and negativity. It chains you to the past, to the moment when you were hurt. It keeps you stuck. But the moment you forgive not for them, but for yourself, you begin to free yourself. You rise above. And that, my friends, is the sweetest kind of revenge. Let me tell you something I've learned through the darkest times of my life. The people who hurt us are often dealing with their own inner battles, their own pain, their own struggles. Their actions are often reflections of their own insecurities and fears. And when you realize this, you stop seeing them as enemies, but as souls who need healing too. By forgiving them, you not only release them, but you release yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. So what is the best revenge to those who hurt you? It's not about making them feel what they made you feel. It's about letting go. It's about growing stronger in the face of adversity. It's about becoming a better version of yourself because of what you've been through, not in spite of it. The best revenge is living your life with grace, love, and joy despite the hardships you've faced. And the best revenge is realizing that you are so much more than the pain you've endured. So today I want to encourage you, if you are holding on to anger, to resentment, to the idea that someone needs to pay for what they did to you, let it go. It's not worth it. You are worth more than that. The best revenge is living a life that's so full of love, success, and peace that those who hurt you never even cross your mind again. And let me tell you this, when you heal, when you rise above, you will shine so brightly that people will see that you are no longer defined by what was done to you, but by the strength and beauty that you radiate from within. Healing is the best revenge. When someone hurts us, whether emotionally or physically, the instinctive reaction is often to retaliate. Our minds may race with thoughts of how we can make them feel the pain they've caused us. It's only human to want justice, to seek some form of retribution for the wounds we've endured. But over time, I realized that true strength doesn't lie in revenge. In fact, revenge often only perpetuates the cycle of pain, leaving us trapped in a never-ending loop of hurt and anger. The most powerful thing you can do when someone hurts you is to heal, because healing not only frees you, but it transforms you in ways you could never imagine. I think about it for a moment. When we seek revenge, we are often driven by the desire to make the other person feel what we felt, to see them suffer in the same way. But here's the reality: the more energy we spend focusing on revenge, the less energy we have to focus on ourselves, our growth, and our well-being. Revenge might give us a temporary sense of satisfaction, but in the end, it leaves us hollow. The bitterness of that desire lingers long after the act of retaliation, poisoning our thoughts and emotions. It doesn't heal the wounds, it deepens them. The truth is, the person who hurt you doesn't deserve that kind of control over your life. When we focus on revenge, we are still giving them power over us, even if that power comes in the form of anger, hatred, or the desire to see them suffer. Healing, on the other hand, is a gift you give yourself. When you choose healing, you choose freedom. You choose freedom. You decide that the pain you've endured will not define who you are or how you will move forward. Healing doesn't mean forgetting the hurt, nor does it mean pretending it never happened. Healing means choosing to move beyond the pain, to rise above it, and to reclaim your peace. It means acknowledging that while someone may have caused you harm, their actions don't have the right to dictate your life. Healing is an act of self-love. It's a declaration that you are worth more than the hurt that was inflicted upon you. Imagine a wound on your body. If you were to keep picking at it, constantly scratching it open, it would never heal. It would get worse, more infected, more painful. But if you allow it to heal, if you care for it and give it the time and space to close, it will eventually fade. The same principle applies to emotional wounds. If we keep revisiting the pain, reopening the scars, we only prolong the healing process. Revenge is like continuously scratching at the wound. It never allows you the chance to heal. The only way to truly move forward is to let go of the desire to inflict pain in return. Healing is what allows you to leave the hurt behind, to step into a new chapter in your life where the past no longer has a hold over you. Healing also shifts your perspective. When we are hurt, it's easy to become consumed by the negative emotions, the anger, the betrayal, the sadness. These emotions can cloud our judgment, leaving us trapped in a cycle of bitterness. But when we choose to heal, we allow ourselves to gain a broader perspective. We begin to see things not just through the lens of our pain, but with the clarity that comes from self-reflection and growth. We begin to understand that the actions of others are often reflections of their own struggles, their own insecurities, and their own pain. This realization doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps us release the grip of anger and resentment we might hold toward them. The truth is, most people who hurt others are often dealing with their own inner turmoil. They may act out of their own fears, their own unresolved issues, or their own pain. When we choose to heal, we stop seeing them as enemies, and instead, we begin to see them as human beings who, like us, have their own battles to fight. This doesn't mean we accept their actions or allow them to hurt us again, but it means we stop letting their behavior control how we feel. Healing is the process of reclaiming your peace, and when you choose peace over revenge, you take back the power that was stolen from you. Healing is also about moving forward. It's about recognizing that your life doesn't stop because of someone else's actions. You don't have to remain stuck in the past, replaying the hurt over and over again in your mind. The pain may always be a part of your story, but it doesn't have to define your future. Healing allows you to write the next chapter of your life, one that's filled with new opportunities, new relationships, and new experiences. It gives you the strength to move beyond the hurt and to open yourself up to the beauty that life still has to offer. One of the most powerful aspects of healing is its ability to help us grow. We often think of pain as something to avoid, something that should never touch us. But the reality is that pain, when processed and healed, can become a source of strength. It teaches us resilience, compassion, and wisdom. It makes us more empathetic to the struggles of others, and it teaches us to appreciate the moments of peace and happiness in our lives. When we choose healing, we grow not just in spite of the pain, but because of it. We learn to rise, to evolve, and to become stronger versions of ourselves. This kind of growth is the ultimate revenge. It's a victory not over the person who hurt us, but over the pain itself. It's proof that we are capable of surviving, thriving, and flourishing despite the challenges we face. When you choose healing, you also open yourself up to forgiveness, not necessarily for the other person, but for yourself. Forgiveness is not about excusing the wrong that was done to you. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of anger and resentment. It's about letting go of the burden that comes with holding on to the hurt. Forgiveness is a process that takes time, but it is one of the most liberating things you can do for yourself. It doesn't mean you forget what happened, nor does it mean you allow the person who hurt you back into your life. But forgiveness is a way of saying, I will not carry this burden any longer. I will not let this pain define me. And that is incredibly powerful. Choosing healing means giving yourself permission to live fully, without the chains of past pain holding you back. It's about embracing the fact that you are worthy of peace, happiness, and love, no matter what you've been through. When you heal, you transform, and that transformation is the best revenge you can give to those who hurt you. It's the victory of choosing to rise, to move forward, and to live your life with strength, grace, and dignity. Healing is not just the absence of pain, it is the presence of empowerment. It is the quiet strength that allows you to continue to grow and to become all that you are meant to be. Pain doesn't define your future. We all experience pain at some point in our lives. It comes in many forms: physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, or spiritual pain. Pain is a universal part of the human experience, and no one is immune to it. The most natural instinct when we encounter pain is to resist it, to avoid it, or to try to escape it. Pain can feel overwhelming and all-consuming, and it's easy to believe that it is the end of the road, that it marks the end of something good, or the beginning of a life filled with suffering. But the truth is, pain does not define your future. It's just one chapter in your story, not the entirety of your journey. How you respond to pain, how you allow it to shape you, is what truly determines the path forward. When we are in pain, it's easy to get stuck in the moment, to believe that the hurt we're feeling will last forever. We may feel like we're being consumed by it, as if it is the only thing that matters. Pain can distort our perception, making everything else seem insignificant or unattainable. We may start to believe that pain is all we will ever know, that it will define the rest of our lives. But if we choose to allow ourselves the space to heal, we realize that pain is not the defining force of our lives. It is simply something we go through, a challenge that, like all challenges, will eventually pass. What defines our future is not the pain itself, but our ability to rise above it, to learn from it, and to keep moving forward despite it. Pain has a way of making us feel small, insignificant, or powerless. It can make us question our worth, our abilities, or our place in the world. But pain is not a reflection of who we are. It is a reflection of what we're going through in a given moment. Pain is temporary, but our resilience, our ability to overcome, and our capacity to grow are enduring. Every time we face pain and choose to keep going, we become stronger. Pain doesn't determine our worth. It doesn't take away our potential for happiness, success, or fulfillment. It doesn't erase our dreams or our ability to make them a reality. It's just a part of the process, a temporary roadblock that, with time and effort, can be overcome. The key is in how we respond to pain. Pain can either break us or build us, depending on the mindset we choose to adopt. When we view pain as something that defines us, something that limits us, we become trapped in it. We allow it to control us, to dictate our choices, and to shape our identity. But when we choose to see pain as a catalyst for growth, we open ourselves up to new possibilities. Pain teaches us lessons. It challenges us to dig deeper, to find inner strength, to reevaluate our values, and to reassess our goals. It helps us clarify what matters most to us, and in doing so, it helps us grow in ways we may never have imagined. Often, pain serves as a wake-up call. It forces us to confront things within ourselves that we may have been avoiding. It shakes us out of complacency, pushes us to reevaluate our lives, and challenges us to make changes that we may have been reluctant to make. Pain can be a teacher, guiding us toward a more authentic version of ourselves. It can inspire us to pursue new passions, to reevaluate relationships, to let go of things that no longer serve us, and to create new opportunities for ourselves. In this way, pain becomes a stepping stone to something better. It propels us forward, urging us to evolve and to seek something more meaningful. Pain also teaches us empathy. When we experience pain, we develop a deeper understanding of what others may be going through. We become more compassionate, more patient, and more willing to offer support to others who are facing similar struggles. This empathy enriches our relationships, making us more connected to the people around us. It helps us build stronger, more meaningful connections because we are no longer viewing the world through a lens of judgment, but through a lens of understanding. Pain opens our hearts, allowing us to see beyond ourselves and to become more attuned to the suffering of others. While pain may initially feel isolating, it can also bring us closer to others. It creates common ground, reminding us that we are not alone in our struggles. When we share our pain with others, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we often find that others are more than willing to support us. It's through shared experiences of pain that we often form the deepest, most meaningful bonds. It reminds us that pain is not a solitary experience, but a shared human condition. And in that shared vulnerability, we find connection, comfort, and support. Furthermore, pain is not a life sentence. It is not something that has to be carried forever. Healing is a process, and it takes time, but it is possible. The more we allow ourselves to process and confront our pain, the more we allow ourselves to heal. We don't have to carry the weight of pain indefinitely. Over time, with the right tools and the right mindset, we can heal from even the deepest wounds. Healing doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. And the more we invest in our healing, the sooner we can move beyond the pain and reclaim our joy, our peace, and our sense of self. Pain may be unavoidable, but suffering is optional. It's not the pain itself that defines our future, but the suffering we choose to carry with it. Suffering is the result of holding on to pain, of resisting it, of refusing to let go. Suffering comes when we cling to the past, when we replay the pain over and over in our minds, or when we allow it to dictate our present and future. We have the power to choose how long we want to suffer. Healing requires us to let go of the attachment to pain, to stop identifying with it, and to allow ourselves the grace to move forward. The future is always unfolding, and it is never set in stone. The pain we experience today does not dictate the person we will be tomorrow. Our future is shaped by the choices we make, by the actions we take, and by the way we respond to the challenges that come our way. If we allow pain to define our future, we are surrendering our power. But if we choose to rise above the pain, if we choose to heal and grow from it, we create a future filled with possibility. We learn that our pain doesn't make us weaker, it makes us more resilient. It doesn't keep us from moving forward, it propels us forward, pushing us toward a future that is even brighter than we could have imagined before the pain. In every difficulty, there is a chance to grow, to evolve, and to become the person we are meant to be. Pain doesn't define us, but our response to it does. It is not the pain itself that shapes our future, but the way we choose to carry it with us, or the decision to let it go and create a new path forward. We are not defined by what happens to us, but by what we do with what happens to us. And as long as we choose to keep moving forward, we can create a future that is not only free of pain, but filled with the strength, wisdom, and growth that come from overcoming it. The best revenge is to live well. When we are hurt by someone, there is an overwhelming urge to seek retribution, to get even, to make the person who wronged us feel the same pain or humiliation that we experienced. This desire for revenge is natural. It is a deep-seated instinct to protect ourselves and to restore a sense of justice. It is easy to feel that the only way to truly heal from the hurt is to make the other person understand the damage they have done. We want them to acknowledge their wrongdoing and suffer the consequences. But in seeking revenge, we often find that we only perpetuate our own pain. And we fail to recognize a deeper truth, that the best revenge is not to retaliate, but to live well. Living well means living on our own terms, rising above the negativity and toxicity that others bring into our lives. It means not allowing their actions to define our future or determine how we feel about ourselves. When we focus on living a life that is full of purpose, joy, and growth, we shift our attention away from the person who hurt us, and we redirect it toward our own personal evolution. Instead of being consumed with thoughts of vengeance, we dedicate ourselves to creating a life that brings us peace, fulfillment, and happiness. This is the ultimate form of empowerment, to live in a way that renders the actions of others irrelevant to our sense of self-worth. When we seek revenge, we allow the person who wronged us to occupy our minds and hearts in ways that prevent us from moving forward. We may replay the hurtful events over and over, hoping that by thinking about them enough, we will find a way to make the person understand the pain they caused. We become fixated on their actions and let them continue to have power over us. The obsession with revenge takes up precious energy and time that could be used for our own personal growth. It is a cycle that perpetuates negative emotions, leaving us stuck in the past. Living well, on the other hand, is an act of releasing that control. By focusing on the present and future, we choose to reclaim our energy and invest it in what truly matters. Living well doesn't mean that we ignore the hurt or pretend that it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that we condone the wrongdoer's actions or allow them to get away with it. Living well means that we choose to move forward despite the hurt, to create a future where we are no longer bound by the negative experiences of the past. It is an act of healing, of self-love, and of resilience. When we live well, we show the world and ourselves that we are not defined by the wrongs that others commit against us. We are defined by how we choose to respond to those wrongs, and we choose to respond with grace, strength, and wisdom. The power of living well is that it allows us to break free from the cycle of negativity. Revenge often leads to more pain. It may provide temporary satisfaction, but it rarely brings lasting peace. In fact, seeking revenge can perpetuate a cycle of conflict that continues to harm both parties. When we choose to live well, we choose to end the cycle of retaliation. Instead of feeding into the negativity, we rise above it. We no longer allow the actions of others to control our emotions or shape our future. By choosing to live a life that is true to ourselves, we reclaim our power and refuse to let anyone else's behavior dictate how we feel or live. Living well also means finding joy and fulfillment in the present moment, regardless of the past. We may not be able to change what happened or undo the hurt that we experienced, but we can choose to find peace in the here and now. When we focus on the positive aspects of our lives, our passions, our relationships, our personal achievements, we are less likely to be consumed by the negative experiences that have come before. Living well means shifting our focus away from the people who have hurt us and toward the things that bring us happiness and contentment. It is about finding joy in the small moments, celebrating the victories, big and small, and living a life that is full of purpose and meaning. By doing so, we take away the power that those who have wronged us once held over us. Furthermore, living well is a form of healing. When we focus on moving forward and creating the life we want, we allow ourselves the space to heal. We stop reliving the past, and instead we build a future that is not defined by the hurt we've experienced. Healing comes when we stop trying to change the past and start focusing on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, and our choices. By living well, we choose to let go of the emotional baggage that comes with holding on to anger, resentment, and the desire for revenge. We allow ourselves the freedom to move forward, to grow, and to create a future that reflects the person we are becoming, rather than the person we were when we were hurt. In living well, we also gain the opportunity to show others how to respond to hurt with grace. Our actions serve as a model for others. By living a life that is focused on positivity, growth, and joy, we inspire those around us to do the same. We lead by example, showing that it is possible to rise above pain and live a life that is not defined by the wrongs of others. Choose peace over bitterness. In the aftermath of being hurt, it's easy to feel angry. Anger gives us a sense of power, a feeling that we are in control of a situation that otherwise seems unfair or out of our hands. When someone betrays our trust, breaks our heart, or hurts us in any way, our natural response is often to be consumed by that anger. It feels justified, even righteous. How could we not be angry when we've been wronged? But here's the thing: choosing to stay angry, to hold on to that bitterness, doesn't actually punish the person who hurt us. It only punishes ourselves. Bitterness, though it may seem like a way to protect ourselves, often leaves us trapped. It robs us of our peace, our joy, and our potential for healing. Bitterness is like a poison, one that seeps into your thoughts, your emotions, and your relationships. When you hold on to bitterness, you give power to the very person or situation that hurt you. Every time you revisit the pain, every time you allow yourself to be consumed by that anger, you allow the bitterness to grow. It becomes a part of you, defining your perspective on the world and on others. The more you feed that bitterness, the more it clouds your judgment and your ability to move forward. You may think that holding on to it somehow keeps you strong, but in reality, it weakens you. It ties you to the past and prevents you from embracing the present moment where peace and healing reside. Choosing peace, on the other hand, is an act of liberation. Peace doesn't mean ignoring the hurt or pretending it never happened. It doesn't mean pretending that everything is okay when it's not. Peace is not about denial, it is about releasing the hold that bitterness and anger have on you. It's about making the conscious decision to not let the wrongs of others dictate how you feel, how you live, or how you view yourself. Peace is something that comes from within. It's the inner calm that arises when you no longer allow external circumstances or people to disrupt your emotional state. When we choose peace, we reclaim our power. We stop allowing the actions of others to control how we feel and how we respond. Bitterness keeps us stuck in a loop of anger, resentment, and regret. Peace allows us to break free from that cycle. It's not easy to choose peace when the world seems unfair or when we feel like we've been wronged, but the more we practice peace, the more it becomes a natural response to life's challenges. It's a mindset that enables us to rise above the pain, to see things from a perspective of understanding and compassion rather than judgment and resentment. One of the reasons peace is so important is that it gives us the clarity we need to move forward. Bitterness clouds our judgment. When we're angry, we tend to make decisions based on our emotions, often leading to actions that we later regret. We might lash out, say things we don't mean, or close ourselves off from people who care about us. In the heat of bitterness, we might burn bridges that we will later wish we hadn't. Peace, however, gives us the space to think clearly, to respond thoughtfully, and to make decisions that align with our values and goals. When we choose peace, we allow ourselves the opportunity to act with intention rather than reaction. Choosing peace also allows us to heal. Healing doesn't happen in the presence of anger. Healing happens when we allow ourselves to let go of the things that hold us back. Bitterness keeps us in a place of stagnation, where we remain focused on the past and the hurt that was inflicted on us. Peace allows us to let go of that past and to move forward. It helps us see the situation for what it truly is, a moment in time that doesn't need to define us. Choosing peace creates the emotional space for healing to take place. It creates the environment in which we can grow, learn, and evolve from our experiences rather than remain shackled by them. But choosing peace doesn't mean we become passive or complacent. It doesn't mean we allow people to walk all over us or ignore the things that matter to us. Peace is not about being a doormat. It is about standing firm in your truth without being consumed by anger or bitterness. It's about setting boundaries, speaking up for yourself, and taking action when necessary, but doing so from a place of calm and clarity rather than out of frustration or resentment. Peace allows us to address the hurt in a healthy, constructive way. It empowers us to respond to the situation with grace, dignity, and self-respect. When we choose peace, we also make space for forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't always easy, especially when the hurt is deep, but peace and forgiveness go hand in hand. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we forget what was done to us or that we condone the behavior of others. Forgiveness is about releasing ourselves from the grip of bitterness and anger. It's about choosing to no longer carry that weight. Forgiving someone is a way of saying, I won't allow your actions to control me anymore. I will not let this hurt define my future. Forgiveness doesn't mean we reconcile with the person or allow them back into our lives. It simply means that we free ourselves from the emotional burden of holding on to resentment. Choosing peace is also about taking responsibility for our own emotional well-being. We often think that if others would just act differently, we would be at peace. But the truth is, peace is not something that comes from external sources. It comes from within. We can't control the actions of others, but we can control how we react to those actions. When we choose peace, we stop waiting for others to change and instead focus on changing ourselves. We take ownership of our emotions and our responses. We stop blaming others for how we feel and start taking responsibility for creating our own emotional state. Choosing peace means that we take control of our happiness, our joy, and our sense of well-being, regardless of the circumstances around us. Moreover, choosing peace allows us to let go of the need for revenge. When we are bitter, we are often consumed by the desire to make others feel what they made us feel. But when we choose peace, we no longer need revenge. We realize that peace is a far greater victory. Revenge keeps us tied to the other person, constantly thinking about them and their actions. Peace frees us from that mental and emotional cycle. It allows us to move on, to reclaim our own power, and to focus on what truly matters. Revenge may provide a temporary sense of satisfaction, but peace provides long-lasting freedom. Peace also makes us more resilient. Life is full of challenges, and there will always be people or situations that try to bring us down. But when we choose peace, we build emotional resilience. We develop the ability to face adversity with a calm, steady heart. We learn that no matter what happens on the outside, we have the power to maintain our inner peace. This resilience allows us to navigate life's difficulties with strength, grace, and a sense of purpose. When we choose peace, we become unshakable in the face of life's storms. Choosing peace over bitterness is a choice that takes practice. It's not something that happens overnight, and it's not something that comes easily, especially when we've been hurt. But every time we choose peace, we take one step closer to reclaiming our happiness, our joy, and our freedom. Bitterness might feel good in the moment, but peace is what brings true healing and lasting happiness. Forgiveness frees you, not them. When we are hurt by others, the instinctive reaction is often one of anger and betrayal. We feel like we have been wronged, and that feeling of injustice can consume us. In the midst of that pain, it's easy to think that the only way to feel better is to hold on to that hurt. We carry the weight of anger and resentment, convinced that if we forgive, we are somehow letting the other person off the hook. We think that forgiveness is a way of excusing their actions, a way of condoning what they did. But in reality, forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. It's a gift you give to yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you approve of what was done to you. It doesn't mean that you forget the pain, the betrayal, or the hurt. Forgiveness isn't about making the wrongdoer feel better or absolving them of their responsibility. It is not an act of charity for the person who hurt you. It is a deliberate decision to release the hold that their actions have over your life. It's about letting go of the negative emotions that are keeping you tied to the past, preventing you from healing, and blocking your ability to move forward. Holding on to anger, resentment, and bitterness does not hurt the other person. It only harms you. It keeps you stuck in a place of pain, unable to experience the peace and joy that life still has to offer. When you choose to forgive, you free yourself from the emotional weight that comes with carrying that hurt. Every time you hold on to anger or resentment, you are allowing the other person's actions to dictate how you feel. You are allowing them to control your emotions, your thoughts, and your life. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is an act of reclaiming your power. It's about taking back control over your own emotional state and refusing to let the wrongs of others have any more influence over your happiness. It's about saying, I will not let this hurt define me anymore. I will not allow it to continue affecting my life. I choose to move forward with peace in my heart. Forgiveness is also about healing. When we don't forgive, the wounds caused by others remain open. We continuously relive the hurt, replaying the painful moments over and over in our minds. This constant replaying of the past keeps the wound fresh and prevents it from healing. But when we forgive, we allow ourselves to move on. We allow ourselves to close the door on the pain and begin the process of healing. Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened, but it creates the space for healing to take place. It is like applying a salve to a wound, allowing it to heal and close, even if it leaves a scar. That scar may remain as a reminder, but the pain no longer controls you. By forgiving, you release the grip of anger and hurt that can cloud your judgment. When you're angry, you don't always see things clearly. Anger can distort your perspective, making you believe that you're justified in holding on to it forever. It can create a cycle of negativity, making everything seem worse than it truly is. Forgiveness doesn't immediately erase the anger, but it opens the door to a clearer view. It allows you to see the situation from a broader perspective, one that is not consumed by the pain you've experienced. Through forgiveness, you regain clarity and allow yourself to make better decisions that are not fueled by anger, but by a desire for peace and healing. When we choose to forgive, we also make room for compassion. It's often difficult to understand why people hurt us. We may never fully comprehend their reasons or motivations. But the more we hold on to our anger and resentment, the more we close ourselves off to understanding. Forgiveness opens our hearts to empathy. It allows us to see the person who hurt us as a human being, flawed and imperfect, just like ourselves. It helps us realize that their actions may have been a reflection of their own pain, their own struggles, or their own wounds. Forgiving someone doesn't mean you condone their actions, but it does mean that you are no longer allowing their actions to control your emotions or your view of them. It creates space for compassion, which allows for healing for both you and the person who hurt you. Forgiveness is a key to inner peace. When you hold on to anger and resentment, you may think that you are punishing the other person, but in reality, you are punishing yourself. You are allowing your mind to be consumed by thoughts of revenge, anger, and hurt. You are allowing your heart to remain closed off, refusing to experience the peace and joy that life has to offer. Forgiveness, on the other hand, allows you to release those negative emotions and open your heart to peace. It doesn't mean that everything is okay or that the person who hurt you gets away with it. But it means that you have chosen to let go of the emotional chains that bind you to the past. Forgiveness is a powerful tool for liberation. Forgiveness is one of the most profound acts of personal strength. It is not about condoning or forgetting the harm that has been done to us. Rather, it is about choosing to free ourselves from the grip of bitterness and resentment, which can weigh us down and prevent us from moving forward in life. Holding on to anger and a desire for revenge is like carrying a heavy burden that we don't need to carry. It's exhausting and draining. By choosing to forgive, we release ourselves from this weight and we take back control of our own lives. Forgiveness is not about excusing someone else's actions, but rather about liberating ourselves from the negative emotions that those actions may have caused. It's a powerful tool that allows us to heal, to reclaim our peace, and to move forward with clarity and purpose. Forgiveness is a decision, not a feeling. When we have been wronged, it is natural to feel hurt, betrayed, and angry. These emotions are valid and should be acknowledged. However, holding on to these emotions indefinitely does not serve us. The act of forgiveness is not something that happens overnight or something that can be forced. It is a choice, a conscious decision to let go of the desire for retribution and to move past the pain. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we forget the wrongs done to us or that we allow ourselves to be mistreated again. Instead, it means that we choose to stop letting those wrongs define us. We choose to no longer carry them with us as we go forward. By forgiving, we free ourselves from being trapped in the past and allow ourselves the chance to heal. When we refuse to forgive, we allow the person who hurt us to continue to have power over us. The emotions of anger, resentment, and bitterness take root, and they dictate how we feel and how we react in our lives. These feelings consume us, keeping us stuck in a cycle of negative emotions. Every time we think about the wrong that was done, we relive the pain. The more we replay the situation in our minds, the more it takes away our peace and our joy. Forgiveness, in contrast, allows us to break this cycle. It is a deliberate act of choosing not to be controlled by the pain, choosing not to be ruled by the hurt that was inflicted upon us. By forgiving, we take our power back. We choose to no longer be victims of someone else's actions, but to rise above them and claim our own peace. Forgiveness does not mean that we allow others to hurt us repeatedly or that we put ourselves in situations where we are likely to be harmed again. Forgiveness is not about excusing harmful behavior. It's about releasing the hold that past pain has over us. Sometimes forgiveness requires boundaries. It requires us to acknowledge the wrong that was done, and then, from a place of strength, to choose to release the hold that it has on us. In doing so, we protect ourselves from further harm and make room for healing. Forgiveness allows us to break free from the cycle of hurt, but it also teaches us the importance of setting boundaries to protect our well-being. In many ways, forgiveness is an act of self-love. When we choose to forgive, we choose to prioritize our own healing and growth over the need to seek revenge or harbor resentment. Holding on to grudges and anger is like poisoning ourselves with negative emotions. It is harmful to our mental, emotional, and physical health. Studies have shown that chronic anger and resentment can increase stress, raise blood pressure, and lead to a range of health issues. Forgiveness, on the other hand, has the opposite effect. It promotes healing, reduces stress, and can even improve our physical well-being. By forgiving, we allow ourselves to let go of the toxicity that can accumulate in our hearts when we hold on to past hurts. It is a way of nurturing our own health and happiness, and by doing so, we open ourselves up to greater peace, joy, and fulfillment. Forgiveness also has the power to change our relationships. When we forgive, we let go of the past and open the door to a future that is not defined by the wrongs that were done. It doesn't mean that we must immediately trust the person who hurt us, but it allows us to release the emotional baggage that might have been clouding our interactions with them. Forgiveness is an invitation to move forward with a clean slate, free from the weight of past pain. In some cases, forgiveness can heal and strengthen relationships, allowing us to rebuild trust and connection. In other cases, forgiveness may lead us to let go of relationships that are no longer healthy or beneficial, but the act of forgiving still allows us to walk away without bitterness, with peace in our hearts. It's a reminder that we are not bound by the past, but that we can create the future we desire, regardless of the people who were once part of our journey. Another crucial aspect of forgiveness is that it enables us to let go of the need for justice or revenge. When someone wrongs us, we often feel a deep urge to make them pay, to make them understand the hurt they have caused. We want them to feel the same pain we felt, and we believe that seeking retribution will restore balance and fairness. However, seeking revenge often brings more pain than it does justice. It keeps us trapped in the cycle of negativity, fueling our anger and resentment. By forgiving, we let go of the need for retribution and instead focus on our own healing. We stop waiting for the other person to apologize or acknowledge their wrongdoing, and we take responsibility for our own peace. Forgiveness is a way of releasing the idea that we need the other person to make things right. Instead, we take control of our own healing and move forward regardless of the actions of others. Forgiveness also teaches us the power of compassion. When we forgive others, we begin to understand that they too are human and flawed. It doesn't excuse their actions, but it allows us to see them as imperfect beings who may have acted out of their own pain, insecurity, or ignorance. Forgiveness does not mean that we accept harmful behavior, but it opens our hearts to a deeper understanding of the complexities of the human experience. By forgiving, we learn to see beyond the offense and to recognize that everyone has their own struggles and challenges. This compassion not only helps us release the hold that anger has on us, but it also fosters a greater sense of empathy and understanding in our relationships. The act of forgiving also transforms us. It is a profound act of personal growth. It requires us to face our own pain, to process it, and to choose to let go of it. It is not easy, and it often takes time. But it is one of the most liberating acts we can perform. Forgiveness allows us to break free from the emotional shackles that hold us back and to embrace the future with an open heart. It empowers us to move forward without being weighed down by the past, to create a life that is not defined by our hurts, but by our strength, our resilience, and our ability to love and heal. In forgiving, we step into a higher version of ourselves, one that is capable of rising above adversity and living a life of peace, grace, and inner strength.